Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. Just one day after being elected, 4 Enterprise councillors suddenly quit in protest. They don't think the new mayor, Sandra McMaster, has what it takes to lead the community. McMaster was elected last week, narrowly beating the former mayor by just 4 votes. Carla Ulrich has been looking into the story and joins us now with more. Carla, what can you tell us about the councillors that stepped down?
So 3 of them were elected for the first time last Tuesday, Michael Kimball, Charles Sutherland, and Malcolm McPhail, and they all refused to be sworn in. One sitting councillor, Jim Dives, resigned before the swearing-in ceremony. I spoke with Malcolm McPhail, and he says he doesn't think the new mayor has what it takes to lead the community out of their current crisis. As we know, the community was hit hard in last year's wildfires, almost completely wiped out. When that happened, McPhail says that the former mayor, Michael St. Amour, did a lot of good work for the community, and he wanted to see that continue. Take a listen.
We needed Mike to continue and to stand up to the GNWT. I'm afraid that the new mayor is just not going to be up to the task. It's a very stressful time for an awful lot of people, and I just don't think she can handle it.
Carla, why don't they think that McMaster is up to the task?
Well, McPhail says that even though McMaster was the deputy mayor during the evacuation, he didn't see any contribution from her or leadership during that time. He also said she didn't vocally participate in town council meetings, and sometimes she would leave them early.
And what is McMaster saying about all of this?
Well, she declined an interview, but she said she will talk after she talks to municipal and community affairs and works with what's left of her council. She did say in an email to me that she will not be bullied, and that's what they hoped for.
So how does municipal and community affairs, or MACA, factor into all of this then, Carla?
Well, I talked to the SAO of Enterprise, Blair Porter. He says it's a unique situation, and they have been in touch with MACA, and they're in the process of figuring out the next steps. He says they don't know when the situation will be sorted out, but right now the Hamlet administration is moving forward with business as usual.
Okay, thank you so much, Carla.
Thank you, Megan.
Last year's wildfire season hit the Northwest Territories hard. As you heard there from Carla, Enterprise was nearly wiped out. At one point, 70% of the territory was evacuated and forests were decimated. South of the border in Alberta, it was a similar story. Flames consumed a record-shattering 2.2 million hectares. It prompted the province to declare an early start to this season. As of today, wildfire season is officially underway in Alberta. Julia Wong has that story.
The province of Alberta is getting ready for wildfire season. In fact, it's actually kicking off that season today instead of the typical March 1st. It's also bringing in crews and equipment 2 weeks earlier than normal. And it's staffing up. There's a request for an additional 100 firefighters on top of the 900 that the province normally has. The forestry minister says that there's a plan to increase that as the need comes. And he's also asking Albertans with experience when it comes to firefighting or working with heavy equipment to reach out so they can volunteer and help out during wildfire season. Now, you may recall what it was like last year when thousands of Albertans were forced from their homes as wildfire encroached on their communities, many of them out of their communities for days, sometimes even weeks, and there was so much uncertainty. Now, 2.2 million hectares burned in this province. It was the worst season that Alberta has ever seen in its history. But going into this upcoming season, the minister says he's confident.
Well, I think we're going to be more prepared than we were last year for sure. Once we have that budget process finished and the budget's approved, then we'll be able to talk more on how much dollars and how much additional resources we're putting into wildfire this year as opposed to other years.
Now, we are in Whitecourt, Alberta, which is about 2 hours northwest of Edmonton, and we just want to show you what the conditions here look like right now. Typically in this part of the province during this time of the year, there'd be a lot more snow on the ground, but as you can see that grass and it's looking very dry. And because we aren't seeing the snowpack that we normally would during this time of year, there is concern that there just isn't that moisture in the ground. Also, temperatures in this province have been above seasonal, and we are experiencing the El Nino effect, where things are very dry and they're very warm. Alberta Wildfire says that they expect that El Nino effect to taper off in the coming months and weather patterns here will change. But the province, as you've just heard, not taking any chances, and they're gearing up for what we could see this wildfire season. Julia Wong, CBC News, Whitecourt, Alberta.
While Alberta prepares for this year's wildfire season, the NWT continues to grapple with what to do about last year. NWT MLAs will vote Thursday on whether there should be a public inquiry into last year's wildfires and evacuations. NWT Premier R.J. Simpson says it's unnecessary, costly, and time-consuming, and he insists that the reviews being done by the government will have all the answers. But Sean Dean isn't so sure. He served as communications advisor to the last two NWT premiers before retiring last year. Dean says a public inquiry is the right thing to do and questions just how independent the government reviews will really be.
I mean, as a former comms professional, I would call independent a bit of a spin in this particular instance, right? I mean, it's a synonym for hiring an outside contractor, but the contract is still with the government. They're going to take direction from the government. They're going to be reporting to a senior bureaucrat. They're going to be doing their work largely behind closed doors. I don't know that meets anybody's sort of normal expectations for what independence looks like, nor for what a truly transparent process looks like, which I think is also necessary for public trust. The fact of the matter is the report will go back in draft to government before it's released to the public, even if they don't change it, and they may not, right? There's still the issue that the public won't have a clear view of what information that report was based on. Right? What you're dealing with there in that instance is the interpretation of the material gathered by the consultant, sort of presented by the consultant. Whereas with a public inquiry, almost all of the evidence will be on the public record and transparently available. Folks will be able to determine for themselves whether or not they think the conclusions of the inquiry match up with the evidence that was presented to them.
Dean notes that Thursday's vote on a public inquiry is technically non-binding. He says it essentially serves as advice to the government, which it can ignore if it chooses. An energy security specialist says a spill at the power plant in Yellowknife last month underscores the need for alternative energy in the NWT. The Northwest Territories Power Corporation says the spill was the result of equipment wear and tear, as low water levels led to more reliance on the Jackfish diesel plant. Natalie Pressman has that story.
The Jackfish power plant has been working overtime. Normally, the plant produces about 2% of power in the North Slave region, but with low water levels impeding the region's hydroelectric system, that 2% has skyrocketed to 45% since 2022.
Water levels in the Snare River are at the lowest level we've ever seen, and we have, I believe, between 50 and 70 years worth of data. So it is very extreme.
Last month, there was a 500-liter spill of mostly water and 5% coolant. Prendergast says that's the result of strain on the facility wearing on its equipment. But without diversifying our energy sources, experts say that will be more and more common.
And I think what you will have if you don't invest in a diversification of energy sources, you will have to rely more and more on those diesel gens. The more you start them and stop them, the more the wear and tear will kick in, which means you will deal with more environmental impacts like spills, but also air quality problems.
Schott suggested solar, biomass, and wind are all viable alternatives with untapped potential in the north. These are projects some communities are already exploring.
I think it's very important to make this part of reconciliation efforts and an opportunity to involve Indigenous people more in their own power generation, becoming independent of other grids, making their own power, and also becoming entrepreneurs in this space of allowing them to develop their own power solutions.
NTPC says the spill was small and there aren't any environmental concerns. The Federal Department of Environment and Climate Change Canada inspected the site, but wasn't able to provide the results of that inspection prior to deadline. Natalie Pressman, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Just today, the NWT Minister of Infrastructure gave an update on renewable energy in the territory. Caroline Wozniak spoke about progress the government has made on its 2023 energy strategy. The GNWT released a report on that subject today. Take a listen.
Territory-wide, residents, businesses, and governments are answering this call to action. Thanks to our collective efforts, we've been able to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 25% compared to 2005 levels. And we are on track to meet the target of reducing emissions by 30% below 2005 levels by 2030. Mr. Speaker, these collective efforts can be seen through the Arctic Energy Alliance's work with communities, Indigenous governments, and Indigenous organizations to develop energy solutions locally by starting community energy planning processes in Fort Simpson, Wilhuktuk, and Kakiza. They can be seen as the GNWT works with the Government of Canada and Northland Utilities to start renewable energy feasibility studies for Wekwati and Samba Cay. These studies are laying the groundwork to advance community-led renewable energy projects that will not only stabilize energy costs and reduce emissions, but also provide economic benefits. There has also been investment in making our energy infrastructure more modern and efficient throughout the Northwest Territories.
That's NWT Minister of Infrastructure Caroline Wozniak. She was explaining how the territorial government is moving forward with its energy strategy. After being shut down for 15 straight days, the Nunavut Highway finally reopened over the weekend. Record snowfall and higher than normal winds caused the closure. Now, at one point, a path was made and a pilot truck led drivers in and out of Tuktoyaktuk once a day. Joanne Edwards-Steen operates the medical bus that brings patients to Nunavut. She says there needs to be more than a path next time there's a major shutdown.
If the road is closed for like 2 weeks, whatever, again, over a week, they should have a flight, backup flight. We have medevac services for emergency, but not for patients going back and forth. It's pretty hard, pretty hard, and food-wise too in communities.
Contractors said there has never been this much snow on the road. Big, heavy equipment was needed to clear the path, and some areas remain single lane for now. Drivers are encouraged to be cautious and watch out for rough areas. The Yukon government hopes new money from Ottawa will help the territory recruit more healthcare workers. The Yukon will get $3.6 million. The money is meant to create a pathway for internationally trained medical staff to work in the local healthcare system. Yukon Premier Ranj Pillay says that his government has already been in touch with internationally trained nurses who currently live in the Yukon. He says the government will recruit them on a case-by-case basis.
I think we're in a position where there's a lot of other individuals that are in our community over and above that. So, I don't think, I know through our application process and TPA, we'll see some of the folks or some benchmarks that we'll want to hit. But, I think in the short term, we've got 20 or 30 people right now that we can put into a program to get them on the right track. That's just in the nursing field alone. So, I think it gives you a sense of where this can go and over a 4-year period.
Pillay says it could take 1 to 3 years for prospective nurses to upgrade their qualifications. The announcement is part of an $86 million federal program to help foreign-trained nurses work in Canada. Yukon business owners had the chance to talk to Canada's small business minister today. Rechi Valdez met with business representatives in Whitehorse. The city is a government town, and business owners highlighted their struggles with employee retention.
So yeah, retaining people, it's the challenge between not enough talent out there, and so you're basically fighting for the same pool of people.
And there's not enough people, right?
Business owners said competing with government wages has taken a toll on sustaining their workplaces, along with foreign workers moving south after being granted permanent residency and late summer student job deadlines. Inflation in Canada is cooling. The overall rate slowed more than expected in January, hitting 2.9%. That's down from 3.4% in December. Nisha Patel has more.
Lower prices at the pump helped slow inflation last month. Grocery costs are also cooling, with the price of soup and bacon actually falling compared to the same time a year ago. Canadians are also paying less for airfares, clothing, and shoes. Experts say it's evidence that higher interest rates are working, making borrowing more expensive to rein in consumer spending.
A lot of the pent-up demand is gone, and households are hit with the reality that housing prices are very high. The economy is not doing great, and so they are forced to cut back on discretionary spending.
Though there is little relief on the price of shelter, the cost of interest on mortgages remains one of the biggest drivers of inflation, up 27% year over year. Rent spiked nearly 8%.
I'm not just working one job, I'm working 3 jobs just to make ends meet.
Things are so expensive. Like, I wanted to buy strawberries and that seems like a luxury.
I've really just cut back and actually changed my lifestyle to accommodate the change in pricing.
Still, for the first time since last June, overall inflation is back within the Bank of Canada's target range.
Well, they're going to want to see some sustained evidence of price stability being restored. So if this continues to be the trend, what we saw in January here, then the bank can certainly say that they've done a good job.
So while the latest inflation numbers are a step in the right direction, economists expect the central bank to stay cautious and hold its key interest rate steady next month. The first interest rate cut is forecast to come by June. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
When my grandfather, Charlie Chaplin, first arrived in Hollywood, it was a place of dreams. But my grandfather clashed with some very powerful forces in America.
Are you a member of the Communist Party? Stand away from the stand!
I'm Una Chaplin. This is Hollywood Exiles. It's about a war of ideas that tore apart friendships, ended careers, and affected families like mine.
Hollywood Exiles, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Nunavut contest is open. You can read, speak, sing, or do a skit in the dialect of your choice. And you can even use filters like this one. Una nutchuk. Buvraganetuk. This is a seal. It's going to swim.
Does public transit really need more police officers? And so this is it.
Welcome to the Greenbelt.
It is now believed that Titan was destroyed. It makes sense that they get a larger share, or does it?
All of this, just single detached homes.
Yes.
What do we know? How is that even possible? Well, with a little bit of help, I think we can explain it.
About that with Andrew Chang. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Bad hair days. We all have them.
Even as scientists, I think I know my place. It's not making art.
What? This is a whale?
That's incredible.
I'm piloting a boat in the fjords of Norway. I love this job.
You never listen to me.
You never think things through.
Your honeymoon phase is officially over. We never had a honeymoon phase.
You really gonna make me say it?
Oh, yeah.
Fine. I need you, Max.
So much drama. I love it. You ever get tired of that? Stop. Get tired of that.
NWT athletes headed to the Arctic Winter Games have more time to get their passports. Sport North has pushed the deadline in hopes that NWT team members can compete in Alaska. The CBC's Mahnor Mubarak has more.
Athletes now have up to the day before they travel from their home community to submit their passport information. This is the third extension due to the lack of passport services in communities. As of February 10th, there were around 30 athletes without passports. Sport North says it's been a difficult time for them.
I guess it's just tough. It's just tough for them to get that information. We're doing our best to try and accommodate athletes in the small communities that don't have access to things like Service Canada.
Before Sport North announced the latest deadline change, one mother in Fort Resolution decided she wasn't willing to wait to see if it would happen. So she flew her daughter to Edmonton to get her passport.
hanging on, waiting for an answer, but really not going to get one right away. So I may as well just get going and doing what we can to make sure this child doesn't lose her dreams.
Bjornson, a single mother, says that the plane ticket cost $1,700, and her daughter's father also pitched in. She also used money she'd fundraised to cover the cost of her daughter competing at the Games. And despite the stress, she says she's still happy that other athletes got the extension so they can compete. The Games will begin on March 10th. Mahnur Mubarak, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Piece there, but I think you saw me. Apologies about that. February is Black History Month, and a number of events have been organized in Iqaluit by the African and Caribbean Association of Nunavut. This weekend, they hosted a panel discussion to talk about Black culture in the territory. The CBC's Jody Ningyocha has more.
On Sunday, panel spoke about some of the challenges they face in Nunavut. They also spoke about their culture, heritage, celebrating successes, and the hope for the brighter future in Nunavut. The panelists were from the government of Nunavut, the city of Iqaluit, and members from the ACAN Association. Enoch Tumwine is the Secretary General of ACAN.
Black history comes as a result of, acknowledging that there was a repression, colonialism, which we share with Inuit people, and it's good that we are celebrating Black History Month in Inuit culture.
Tumwine says another issue was raised that there is no equal opportunities like funding and housing. Vice President of ACAN, Kabelo Mokiana, says there are a lot of similarities within the Inuit and African culture, which he believes will help his members fit into Nunavut society.
As African Caribbean Association of Nunavut, we are putting a communication which we'll be raising to our powers above so that we can be part of this community.
The African and Caribbean Association of Nunavut is providing class lectures at the high school. They are also hosting an open mic night on the 23rd of February at the storehouse, and everyone is welcomed. Jody Ningyocha, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Some kindergarten children in Kuujjuaq got hands-on experience in processing country food last week. They helped their teacher prepare a small, harvested caribou. The young caribou was harvested by Ayana Berthie's grandfather and donated. The first traditional skill was packing the carcass, not out of the tundra, but into the classroom. There, the children gathered around to touch, feel, and learn how to skin the animal, but the experience taught much more than just skinning techniques.
This type of activity is crucial for young kids, especially young Inuit, as it helps them develop a strong connection to their culture, language, and environment. By engaging in a hands-on learning experience rooted in their heritage, students develop a sense of pride and belonging that contributes to their overall well-being and academic success.
This is the second year Berthie has offered the experience to her students, and things went even better this time. Last year, it took the children 1 hour to skin the caribou, and this year, the group did it in only 20 minutes. And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
Nineteen 40 lalaw 50 sa rin yung luwang ikalaw tungan. Kamak tuwalo lakalaw Pilagtok talo ama. Wakalaw yalak sa mga tanan na sibulak pak pilagtok tao ama. Pilagta si malak sa mga gilak tawalak sa mga magama.
Closing this case gets you one step closer to you getting back on the squad and keeping you out of prison.
You're not a detective. You're a con artist. You have a driver's license, right?
Of course, I have 9. If you couldn't be a cop, what would you be?
Nothing. My dad raised me to be a cop. That's who I am. Stay here.
You're adorable.
You guys are making this entire station look like a circus.
He's busy trying to solve a murder. What are you doing?
Thanks for having my back.
Look at you.
Is this your girlfriend? This is not my girlfriend. She's way too cool to be your girlfriend. She's not way too cool to be my girlfriend.
My dad was a railway porter. It was just about the only job a black man could get. But he had big plans for us. Music would be our ticket out of poverty. I knew we couldn't afford that piano, so I practiced twice as hard.
Nice, Daisy. Okay, Oscar, let's hear it.
Turns out, I wasn't half bad. Then I found jazz, or it found me. It wasn't all easy, though. I faced a lot of hate. But I found my stage. They call me the man with 4 hands. Well, I don't know about that, but let's see how far this ticket takes me.
From Montreal to Carnegie Hall and far beyond, Oscar Peterson became one of the most recorded and celebrated jazz musicians of all time.
My name is Amanda Paris, and I am constantly thinking about culture, race, and social issues. So I want to push these conversations forward.
We found that there was animal meat fat in plastic synthetic hair.
There was a time where I'm like, should I have kids because the kids are going to be black?
I've been fired from my dream job. What's the worst that can happen now?
Now is the time to take the group chat to the real world. A 6-part series. This is For the Culture.
Watch free on CBC Gem.
Hey, you're some friends, aren't you? Stand here and now you try and blackmail her. You disgust me. Every one of you.
Coronation Street. Watch free on CBC Gem.
We've won the costume contest every year.
Bunny!
Oh, they're squishing me. What have we done?
News you can trust. Delivered when you want, where you want. On Canada's News app. Download the free CBC News app.
Wait.
It's a ceremony?
And Your Majesty may be pleased to know that this year, thanks to the help of our Indian friends, we have produced some 30,000 pounds of this sweet gift.
You can be this happy too with endless TV shows, movies, and more.